In today's video, we're going to talk about the present perfect. I'm going to show you how we use it, how we make it, what it looks like in different languages, and why it's so important. Bam! Whoa, that went really far. I have studied. This is a good example of the present perfect in English. Notice that it can mean two different things. It can mean something, you're talking about studying something at some point in your life. For example, if a long time ago when you were in high school, you studied something, you studied German, you could say, I have studied German. But just leave it at that. If you told me when it happened, then you wouldn't say I have, you would say I studied. I studied German in high school. I have studied German, right? I have studied German just means at some point in your life. This is like if you've seen a movie, you would say I have seen the movie. So would you like to see this movie? No thanks. I have seen it. Or I have seen it already is what we usually add to that. But the other meaning is something that you started in the past and it's still continuing up through today. For example, lived. We wouldn't say, I lived in this house for 4 years, because that would mean that you don't live there anymore. I have lived in this house for 4 years means that you started living there 4 years ago and it's still continuing up until now. This is the present perfect because it goes all the way up until the present, where the effect of something goes to the present. We'll talk about how we form this. We'll talk about some exceptions here later on, but this is a regular verb. You can tell it's regular because it ends with ed. This part here is called the past participle, and it never, ever, ever changes in this construction. The part that changes is the first part, have, the auxiliary here. In Spanish, I think is really interesting. English is sort of a cousin to these languages here. These are Romance languages. But it's formed in almost exactly the same way and used in the same way as in Spanish, and maybe Portuguese also. In Spanish you say yo he estudiado, means I have studied, and again you could say this for something that's continuing until now, like he vivido, or just something that you did at some point in your life, he estudiado or he visitado. Notice that the Spanish comes from the verb haber. People frequently misspell this word, haber, because it has a silent H at the beginning, and the BV is confusing to people. So this is haber yo he estudiado. Never forget the H at the beginning of that word. For Portuguese, would say eu tenho estudado. Eu tenho estudado. Notice that Portuguese is using the verb tener, like in Spanish, tener. This is their form of it, tenho. But I don't think it's used exactly in the same way as in Spanish. I'm not totally sure. The French and the Italian, backwards, the Italian and the French use this in a different way. It can mean I have studied, like at some point in my life, or I have lived up until now. But more often, it's used as the simple past. So if you want to say, I saw the movie last weekend, you would say, ho visto. I think it's ho visto, or j'ai vu in French. Io ho studiato is I have studied or I studied. J'ai étudié is I have studied or I studied, likewise. To show the changes for the different subjects, if we change this subject to you, notice that in English there's no change here, you have studied. But the rest will all change, and this is what I have right here. You have changed. You have studied. Tú has estudiado. Você tem estudado. Tú hai studiato. And this is tu as étudié. If we change this to he, this will change again to has. Well, this will change, not again, but this will change to has. Or he or she, right? Or it. He or she has studied. She has studied. Él ha estudiado. Él ha estudiado. This would be él tem estudado. This would be lui ha estudiado. And il a étudié, or elle a étudié. Again, notice that the auxiliary is changing here. The cool thing about this is that to work with it is really easy. If you want to ask a question, you just put the has in front of the he or she. Has she studied German? If you want to make the negative, you put not. She has not studied German. And in the other languages, you put the no word in front. So no ha estudiado. Or in the French, it has the double. So il n'a pas étudié. This kind of thing. But it goes in front. In English, it goes afterwards. I think that's it for the formation. Now, the past participle, if it's a regular verb, it's very easy to make in all these languages. But all of them also have irregulars. In English, we have these. We often memorize them like this. We say something like see, saw, seen. So like, I see the movie. Yesterday, I saw the movie. And now I have seen the movie. Break, broke, broken is the same thing. So only the third one is usable here in the past participle. I have broken. In Spanish that would be he roto, or he quebrado. We have 3 more. Go, went, gone. Sorry, here's 2 more on this card. Go, went, gone, and do, did, done. So I haven't done my homework means up until now. Up until now, I did not do my homework. Right? So I haven't done my homework. Here are 2 more. Have, had, and had. Notice it's the same word twice there. Had and had. So you could say I have an interesting class. Last year I had an interesting class. I have had interesting classes before. Take, took, and taken. I have taken lots of breaks today. These are some of the irregulars, but there are more that you'll just have to memorize if you want to be able to say this correctly. A lot of people, even native speakers, will mess this up. They'll accidentally put the past tense in the past participle. Something like something like this. She has went. I've heard people say, "Oh, she has went already." This kind of thing. Instead of she has gone. I've never went there. Something like that. I've never did that. It's just the wrong one. You're supposed to use done. The reason it's super important, though, is that this is the basis for many more complicated things in English and other languages, too, that we might talk about later in a future video. When you say, I should study, that's now. But if you're talking about the past, then all you have to do is put that should before the have, right? So it's I should study. Yesterday, I should have studied. I would study. Yesterday, I would have studied, right? And there's so many different ways you can change this. I might have studied. I may have studied. I will have studied. But if you don't know this basic form, I have studied, then you can't make any of those other more complicated things in English. And it goes the same for the other languages too. So I hope this was somewhat interesting to you. I hope you didn't fall asleep halfway through. And that's it.